This is being brought to you by ARC, Appalachian Regional Council grant that actually Cleveland State put together about 3 or 4 years ago. And the kind of way I got here was they came to visit me when I was building little near zero energy Habitat for Humanity houses. And my hat is off to a couple of visionary people here at this community college that said, you know, I really think that this is going to be something very special, and I want to get a program going here where we can train our young kids to really get in and be a part of what is going to be necessary at some point to get housing down to very, very little amounts of energy, very comfortable, you know, and the whole low carbon footprint. And that's pretty innovative. And I've been very privileged to be involved in national efforts on how to get the curriculum into colleges. And it's interesting when you talk about the 2-year versus the 4-year program. I taught for about 6-7 years at the University of Tennessee, the Department of Architecture. That was 4-year students. They tend to be more focused on commercial buildings. But as far as residential, that tends to be a community college kind of mission. And that wasn't really clear as things sorted out, but that's where it's been. So bravo for the visionaries here at Cleveland State to have sought off on this program. And they asked me, they said, well, would you be part of this? And so I was on a steering committee when it started about 3 or 4 years ago, and I wrote a small little letter saying, you know, more or less what I just told you. And so it's very interesting that at the very end of this grant, I've got an opportunity to come back and still be a part of what I consider a very, very exciting and very visionary effort on a few folks right here in town. So throughout the day, there's going to be, and these were kind of given to me, and they were written about 3 years ago, that we would have these seminars on these subjects. And so what I tried to do is take each of those subjects. I wanted very much to through myself to individuals that are deciding, you know, either their own home or a part of this or a business or potentially students. So this is the first one, and then there's another 5 that follow. I have not just gone in and got archived the stuff from the last 37 years, old stuff that's, in fact, the thing's moving so fast on like wind and solar and even the energy ratings that I spent a great deal of time updating myself, and I hope updating you as far as exactly where these things stand nationally, and very importantly where they stand in Cleveland and right here in our community. So the title of this is Home Energy Rating, Could It Increase the Future Appraised Value of Your House? And the answer is absolutely. The reality is it does. What we need is a broad market recognition of well-built, energy-efficient, either new or existing homes, so that the average home buyer can walk up to this and see clearly the distinction between 2 houses side by side, but that this one's got a lot of energy efficiency. And it's a very simple way of doing this, but of course, you know, in this day and age, you have to have quality assurance, and this is expensive somewhat to get, and the challenge is how to try to get that label, that rating on the house at the absolute lowest cost, because you really want to take every dollar you got and put it into the, you know, better heat pump or better windows or better air tightening in the structure. So I've got what I think is a real nice kind of condensed, you know, package on each one of these subjects, and so let's run through this. And we're just a small group, so I'm here for you guys. It is going to be archived, and we hope that the effort here will get a lot of mileage. But you know, I'm one that doesn't mind the dialogue and interruption, and we're on a sync, you know, time-wise. You are going to be handed at the end of the day, and this is really a nice deal. Everything I'm going to show or not get to is yours. Okay, so at the end of the day, these presentations are there. So as far as you're trying to take notes while you're, you know, you don't need to do it unless, you know, there are things that you got to remember and stopping and picking up groceries on the way home or whatever. But yeah, so know that it's been very nicely laid out for you and hopefully for others. So maybe I should spend a time kind of getting a read on where you guys are sitting, but not everybody fully understands what an energy rating is, and it can mean a lot of different things, and you may have heard of this one. And I will open this up by saying, if you're a stock car fan, you can see, I don't know, sometimes there might be 50 logos on that car, you know, and to me, the more the better, you know. Yeah, everybody's got a different way of looking at it. We got to have good third-party quality in this, so it's a good, legit kind of program, and that will only enhance that. And so I'm pretty familiar with who's out there with what, and kind of going to tell you, looking forward, what I think is going to be kind of the area as this unfolds here in our area. So it's a measurement of the home's energy efficiency, and by that, we're generally boiling it down to how much energy that house is using compared to a similar house right next door. And then you say, well, yeah, and I'm going to show you throughout one time through the day, you know, this huge cloud of variation from house to house to house. We all know that. But these tend to be what they call asset ratings. So we take all the families of 20 and the person that never turns on their lights and never air conditioner, and we just say, this is the facility. It doesn't matter who is going to go into it and what they're going to do. We are only rating the assets of the property, not the operating behavior of that house. And so that is very important that be clearly understood, because there's people, of course, anytime you try to do something, there's winners and losers, and those losers are saying stuff like, oh, you never can do that because everybody, nonsense. You know, that's all, it's been vetted a long time ago. It can be used for either existing or new homes. And I had the good fortune of speaking in every large metropolitan area about 3 or 4 years ago, and I would go to National Association of Home Builders, the local Tennessee builders, and I'd ask the new home builders, I said, you guys into this, or is this going to, you know, bring it on. They wanted it very, very badly, and I'll tell you why, and that is because a new house can get a very good rating by falling off a log, and you're looking at a man that thought I've fallen off that log, I could go in here and go into existing houses and just as easily get as good a numbers, and had a lot of smarts, a lot of patience, and it is very difficult for existing houses to get as low a rating. It's just more effort. And so, but that's fine. I mean, people want, you know, they buy houses for other reasons, not exclusively energy, and if I want to get real close to town in that old bungalow with no insulation, well, know that that's there, and it's an opportunity to get in there and make that house special compared to the house across the street. So now all of a sudden, you know, there's no discrimination against existing old houses, but that is the arguments that some realtors are tossing out. It allows the buyer to compare the energy efficiency of homes they're considering buying, and so. The idea is, with this house, this ranking, you would be able to have one more thing on the criteria to decide. And there's lots of times where, and I understand more and more people are asking about energy bills, but when you ask about that energy bill, you do back up into this, well, how do these people really live in that house? So it's not as insightful a metric, energy bills, as something like this would be. Residential energy services, the leading private entity out there is a group called ResNet. Can I get a hand? Anybody heard of ResNet? You guys? Okay, all right. Don't fall asleep on me, because I got to serve this all up. But this is an entity that's been going on for a long time. Any of us could go to their meetings, be part of these committees that could then decide what goes into this metric, if you will. And it's called HERS, Home Energy Rating, and I'm going to show you this in spades in a minute. But this is a real good, straight-up group. There is a couple of people from our area that have actually, a gentleman by the name of Dylan that's actually taught here, that's been a part of, is on the steering committee. So, you know, we're represented, but what I always tell my friends at TVA is, dudes, if we don't grab this by the horn, we're going to end up with something from California trying to fit it into a Tennessee scene. We got to get on the game board. And so but this is a well-established, and its goal is the creation and maintenance of a resident mortgage industry national home energy rating standard. And it is gaining in popularity. In fact, the head of this I heard speak just a couple of months ago, and his belief was that they were at the numbers of something like 35% of the new house market was going ahead and getting these done. It is mandated in many parts of the country where this is already on the board. Certification, quality assurance on ResNet provider organizations. Not just anybody can do this, although I'm going to tell you at the end of the day that I think you could do your own, and from what studies we're seeing is that a lot of times it's not even a distinction of the quality of this rating. If a house has got something in a box that has a number or a number of stars, that is being reflected in the market as a positive thing, and you're going to see, and I've got some data, houses selling faster and selling for more. Ratings sought to quantify homes' energy efficiency. So Larissa Brass used to be at the Oak Ridge National Laboratory, and there was an article, and I don't think I'm going to go to this, but I'm going to just tell you that if you care to, this is a hot link when you get your flash drive, and you can go, and this is a little bit dated, but this is, I was very excited about, with TVA, we were beginning to get some momentum on this, and Larissa wrote a nice article, and then I urged her, I said, well, don't just believe me, because you guys are going to see in a minute, well, Christ, he's an Oak Ridge guy, he's been drinking off government tax money and doing research. He's of course going to be excited about this. Get a couple of other diverse views. And she did that. And she went and talked to the head of the realtors. And the realtors said, you know, if this is voluntary, we're for it. But if it's mandatory, and I think the words were, you got a war on your hands. And it's like, war? Oh my God, we have enough war already. Please, what is the problem? And I think in part it's, if you've ever had your house refinanced, there's 103 pages. And if you had a rating, it'd be 104. Heaven forbid. You know, all the stuff we're trying to do to help on the transaction of a home, we don't want to add more burden into that process. And so I think that's in essence the core of the realtors, you know. But then TVA, and I was, and you're going to see throughout the day, and I love TVA. They gave me mini meal tickets in collaboration with my DOE project, and I wanted so much to make them, you know, national, international stature in this area. For God's sakes, you know they need it, a really good story. So they contacted, and here's a great friend of mine, Mike Bradley, that used to be at Oak Ridge, and he was instructed to say, oh, it's too early. Don't. We're still thinking about it. So, and like I say, I've already commented on the realtor. Lots of buzz terms here, but the leading home energy ratings at this moment, this is the ResNet home energy rating score, HERS. I'm going to serve that, you're going to see in a second in spades. HES is a home energy score. Kind of came out of LB&L, great, smart guys. Its goal is largely to do what I said here. This you got to have a blower door, duct blaster, you got to do some diagnostics. I'm a research geek. I love diagnostics, and my guess is you guys do too if you can afford it, but it requires a blower door, and by the way, the most valuable thing you can do once you can't visually figure out anything more, get yourself a blower door on your house. It's just money well spent. And then the pressure of the ducts is something that is very valuable, and it's you pressurize that duct and you go through a systematic way of seeing where the leaks are, and it's just invaluable. But that costs money. So what HES is trying to do is say, let's see if we can't be smart enough to not require that added cost of that kind of diagnostic test. And of course, these guys don't like that, but I am fully on board with the idea of getting this inexpensive. And Energy Star, most widely recognized anything related to efficiency. Sam Rashkin is a marketing machine. The guy's got a couple of books out. If you've ever got a chance to hear him, he's absolutely incredible. He's now at DOE, And I'm involved in something called the Solutions Center. That is, on the internet, you're going to get in, and it's going to identify who you are, kind of, are you a banker, are you a contractor, are you a builder, and serve up all this kind of information, but in your own language. And it's just a, you know, nobody's got time to sit and sift through all this stuff. The idea is it gets you right to what you need in your terms, and it's wonderful. It's not live yet. I want to make mention of that. I'm one of the developers, but it's supposed to be very shortly. So Energy Star version 3 is the Cadillac, if you will, that they're on. And all of these are more heavily energy. And I'm going to sit here and say straight on, it's about energy. When we talk about LEED, we talk about the National Association of Home Builders Green Building, wonderful stuff. But it gets into the recycling, the reuse, the low VOCs, the bamboo, you know, the water, and not that that's not important. But those are other things that it kind of, well, the real enchilada here is the energy scene, and let's get that right. And so that's what these all are, and the others are, and I'm happy to fill that in. Everywhere I've gone, I've been on not this governor, but Governor Bredeson's task force here in the state of Tennessee, and we recommended to the governor on his energy committee that this be done. And it's universally agreed upon whenever you get it vetted in a proper environment that this is a good deal. There's two entities we need to watch out for. It's like, you know, where's that information coming from that climate change isn't real? You know, well, it's somebody that benefits, you know, not getting that out there, like the, you know, some of the oil industries. So the realtors and electric utilities, and not all, by no means, but they're just, you know, their incentive structure has guided them to that as your opposition. But just remember how self-serving some of that might be as your whatever role you might play in trying to make this happen. Okay, so here's our first glimmer at a rating, and it's this is on ResNet's website, and just to set you up, that's a zero energy house. This is pretty much a code build house, and I've got one that's pretty, you know, just I stepped away from a builder and I just watched him from the side, didn't interfere with him. He straight up built what he built in 2009, and it came out at 101. Yeah, supposedly code compliant, and you know, for the most part he was, and throughout the day I'm going to show you exactly what was and wasn't in that house. But you get a lot of existing houses up here. I have found a 200. It's kind of like a little bit better than a tent, but this covers the full spectrum. But look how nice. And then there's 3 things on here. 4 things. There's this little logo for annual savings. There's something called carbon footprint, and you know, kind of some you kind of think, oh, that's those tree huggers. They like to talk carbon footprint stuff. But it's amazing, you know, some of the market surveys. There's a demographic out there, and a lot of young kids that are on this campus. This is a big deal important for them. And then the comfort. And as we sift through all of this, it gets down to this comfort. It doesn't get the energy. It doesn't get the dollars. You know, just give me a good, comfortable, productive space to live in. That's what I really want. You know, so you got all 3 of those metrics. And then this is not TVA numbers, but it turns out it's not too bad. If you guys kind of look at your electric residential rate, you know, yell at me, throw some fruit at me if you know. It's about 9.4. You guys, anybody even done the math? Yeah, okay, very good. All right, but this is national, which turns out to be, I think, about a little bit more than 10. So these numbers are going to be low. But it actually spits out this number. And you kind of go, oh, okay, well, I see this still stuff all the time. But look what you can do. You can say, well, what if I got a 30? And you can kind of very quickly visually see this this change. And then pretty nicely, it actually does the economics for you as far as, and this is based on lots and lots of computer simulations, but I'm going to tell you that I validated this very carefully with 3 houses in Knoxville. So you can see the annual energy savings compared to a typical existing home and compared to a typical new home. And that is something that you don't have to go and have somebody, pay $500 to have them do this. You can kind of grab onto this pretty quickly. And I will tell you that, I might be able to refine this a little bit by taking your specific house and going through, but it's going to be in the ballpark. And the nice thing is it's solid and it's relative. So again, you're going to have this, and then the other thing that it may not be necessary in all crowds, but I think a lot of people think, wow, a 0 or near 0 on your house, man, that's going to be like a geodesic dome, or it's going to have solar all over your south face, and it's going to be earth covered. No. You name the architecture, you name what you like, you take the site, you do whatever you do with that site, and here's a classic example. And this was, by the way, these were, after working for about 5 years with TVA, Tom Kilgore says, well, habitat is really cool stuff, and I would spend my life working on research/habitat houses. It's a nice environment, and I know a group here has been very involved in that, and it's a great place to be. But Mr. Kilgore, who has just recently announced his retirement from the TVA, came by and said, I like what you've done here, on time and within budget, and nice story, good, but what are people buying here in Tennessee? So in 2008, he had his statisticians punch in the numbers, and not that this is what everybody wanted, but this is what was selling. We in Knox County call these Knox boxes. I live in a Knox box. I don't mean to knock it. It's what you can get for a pretty decent price. And 2 stories, 2,400 square foot, master's not on the main, it's upstairs. When you get that, you pop your house up a little bit larger. And it has got what people wanted. And by the way, this development that's very close to Turkey Creek over there in Knoxville was they had 19 houses going and accounted for something like 20% of the new starts for one period there during the deep part of the recession. So granted, it had location, but they also had price point, and so these were the houses. So, pop quiz, I always try to interact as much as I can. You got 2 houses. I think you might agree they look pretty similar. I need to get a vote. One of these is less than $1 a day, the other is $6 a day. One has a HERS rating that you've got a little bit familiar with of 100, one with a 34. How many think this one? Can I see you? Humor me. How many think it's this one here? Nobody? How many think it's this one here? All right, I got 2 to 0 and 4 abstentions. All right, you're a very smart class. This is the one. And when you see the back side, you see 2.5 kW PV, and you see a solar thermal system on this house. In another presentation later, I'm going to tell you that the added goodies on this house were $32,000, and that when I went and borrowed money at 6% for 30 years and took that added cost, this house had a neutral cash flow. Okay, what I meant, so I'm going to pay a little bit more to the bank, but less to TVA, less to the electric utility. And right now, the banks have been working me a pretty good deal. And so I could probably do a lot better than that. I might actually be able to find 3.5%, so this story even gets better. And you go, whoa, with solar? Are you sure? I had a wonderful opportunity to brief our previous president up in Columbus, Ohio. And I was going on like I was going on here, but I didn't have all day. I had 240 seconds to talk to President Bush. And when I mentioned, similar thing, another building with solar, he said to me, oh, hey, I heard this stuff is really expensive. Did you include the real price of that stuff when you did your economics? And I said, yes, sir, I did. And his answer was, well, that's just awesome. One guy from the Secret Service, no paparazzi, It was like 2 kids in a program. I know it's awesome. You know, I went on and yabby, yabby, yabby. And at the end of the day, a friend of mine came up and said, wow, that's nice. You got the President of the United States thinking your stuff's awesome. You know, so wherever I go, I brag about that.
How big a solar panel system is on your house?
Pardon me?
How big a solar panel system is on your house?
On this one here, it's 2.5. So it is not very big. I will tell you, for what I paid for this in 2009, for that same 14K, I can now get close to 5.
That's 2.5.
Okay, okay. Recently?
I bought it, we looked it up last summer.
You mind sharing the total after your taxes and everything cost? I mean, is it even or did you get a good deal from your brother-in-law?
Well, actually, I got a good deal total on panels, but I had been buying my stuff a little bit at a time, just because I couldn't afford to do the whole thing all at once.
Uh-huh.
And so I've got what, 2,520 watts on my roof, and I've got I have a Outback system. It has the Outback solar controller and power inverter, and I've got no, we're not on the grid. I've got 24.
Aha.
I've got 24 extra outlets all throughout my house.
Aha.
2 that run out of my garage.
Okay, so you're not part of the Green Power Switch program.
Not yet.
Yeah, not yet. Okay, yeah. Okay, it probably wouldn't be a comparative number. And when your battery storage going? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I will tell you that it's neat, but I think for the masses, I don't think that's the way to go off grid. I think it is to feed in, and particularly right now, the TVA. If anybody is contemplating solar, it's about as sweet a deal right now as it's ever going to be. You've got overcapacity out there of supply of solar, and you still got the incentives. They're allegedly good to 2016, but so it's just kind of like the perfect great storm to go solar, and you can make those numbers work. So what I had here was an impressive statement, but yeah, people are doing this again, falling off logs, at the moment.
What would he take to get on the TV system? Got it right there.
Okay. For those of you that are going to hang here to the, most of the day, that is a very prescribed approach. He's going to have to go to Chattanooga Power. Who's your distributor? Yeah, but you're not feeding directly. You're okay, so you got to go to your distributor. They have to, and he's going to have to go with a line diagram. Not a big deal. Here it is. This is how I'm going to hook up to the grid. I'm not going to fry any linemen. I'm going to do this, UL approved. They go, okay, whoa, battery. Okay, well, no, we can't do that. So you're going to have to probably make a few adjustments. Okay, then he sends it to a gentleman at TVA. My experience is TVA has been easier than the local distributors. And some of the local distributors get it, and it's no big deal. They're truly looking for real safety problems, which, thank you very much, I'm glad you're doing that, but they're not throwing dust in your face. Hey, this is good. We like this program. We like more of this. We need to be doing this. And so once you got that approval process, then, and everything has to be UL, and they're going to ask for all of that. And then $1,000. They'll send you $1,000. It comes back. Somebody inspects. Boom, pops the solar meter in. You're going.
You also have to have a kill switch outside so that if the power goes out, so when the linemen come, when the linemen go to work on the line, they can come and turn your power off so that you're not sending power back to the line and frying them while they're working.
That's exactly right. And they're going to own the RECs. What the hell's the RECs? That's the Renewable Energy Credit, which is a certificate every 2, and that's, again, a marketing that's going to grow, but that's your renewable energy credit, and you can do that. Have you tried?
I'm going to.
Okay.
I haven't got around to it yet.
Okay.
Because my system connected to both. If the power went out at my house and I was on the grid, I could go out and turn my power off outside, so I was not going back on the grid, but I hit another switch on my panel, and it would charge right back into my battery bank, and I could use my extra 24 hours.
Yeah, very nice. I'm envious. salivating. Yeah, that's a really cool system. But you know, but back to this. Okay, so then what TVA's arrangement is what's called a buy all, sell all. Everything you generate when you're hooked up correctly, you're going to get that 9.5 plus 12 cents. So you're getting 21 cents for 10 years. And then what? Well, again, I'm going to give you the blow-by-blow later. Then you're going to be able to sign up for another 10. But right now, all they're saying is, I'm going to buy it back at retail, which isn't bad relative to the laws that say you got to, if you're an electric utility, you at least have to buy back at wholesale, which is much, much less. TVA can generate from their nukes, you know, at 2 cents. So that's where they're evolving to. So, but right now, that's the deal. You get 10 years, and it's pretty guaranteed. You're going to get that 21. Oh, by the way, if it goes up to 15 cents, the 12 cents locks in, which was recently changed, and so that's a nice deal. So if it's 15 cents, now you're getting 27 cents for 10 years. And then after that, and really, if you signed it right now, that's all you'd get. But it's pretty certain that you'd be able to get another 10. But they got the RECs. You right now hold yours. You really should. It'd be interesting to see where it goes, because RECs is a marketing thing. Many utilities that are under public service commissions are mandated to do a certain fraction of renewables, and you can't just wave a wand and say, "Oh, that's what it is." You know, so people would be willing to pay you. You've already spent that capital. This can go towards their renewable energy required portfolio of percentage of generation.
So that was my whole thing. When we first started this several years ago, when we started buying the equipment that we were going to use to do this, I went to Italy Utilities, told them that I was going to put a solar panel system on my house. And I had heard about them buying TVA, buying the power back. Italy Utilities told me several times, no, we don't do that. Can't do that. So that's the reason I ended up with the battery bank instead of the...
Well, just so everybody understands this, you know, electric utilities in our area have been incentivized to sell power. It's just, I mean, so they're just behaving like the market has been served up to them. So it's not a conspiracy, they're not an evil, but from the utilities world, solar is not as attractive as the alternatives, and for sure, gas combined cycle. So their general, the idea of getting solar on the grid side ain't going to happen. From you and I, we're renting this power from them, and that's sweet. They like that. Everybody likes being the landlord and just taking in the checks. So the investment in energy efficiency, in pursuing whatever we can do to get labels on the ground, to get the solar, it's in the consumer's better to you know, these things look a lot more attractive than they look to utility. So the situation we're in right now, an electric utility is looking over us and either helping or maybe not. And you kind of say, in your case, it's a little example of, hey, I'm just being a good, smart businessman. And you can't, okay, I mean, what I'm trying to do is sell power at the lowest cost. I better stop there before we get into a philosophical discussion. I'm going to skip this right now, but you will have, this is a hot link to see what the HES looks like. And that's the second one. That's the one, a little bit different scale. But the really cool thing about this, you can go in and in 2 minutes, you can punch in your house and it'll give you a rating, more or less, and numbers. So there's a computer program behind it. It's not going to be as accurate as you could make it, but it's asking the important questions. How many windows? Where are they? What's the square footage? You know, how many people? They're asking the biggies, and then they're, you know, so anyway, so that's available right now. Okay, and then this is also on your flash drive, and this is a roll your own. Okay, let's just say that And it sounds like you're a man that rolls his own, okay, I'm going to sell my house. Well, go ahead, here's a form, and go fill this thing out as best you can, and hand it to your appraiser. And oh, by the way, how does an appraiser get to where he's going to okay, I see some handshaking. I recently had this done, and the guy showed all the pictures of my geeky stuff. I'm going to show you. You should see my crawl space hatch. It is from a energy efficiency aficionado. It is just gorgeous. It's just, I bring people off the street to show them this. And this guy, he was impressed. He took all the pictures, boom, 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 put them in my appraisal. This guy must have a lot of efficiency. All he did was take out all that. And it turns out I still appraised it the same as the very troubled house across the street. But let me just give you some fuel here. There is a Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac addendum that says there is a procedure that is acceptable. It's an alternative to getting your rating. And it requires a third-party objective determination of what kind of stuff's in your house and really what that means to your electric bill. And therefore a formula that then gets to the appraiser. If that appraiser is not trained to understand that, you can ask for another appraiser. I don't want that guy. And he's just, hey, I'm sorry, I can't do. Well, if he went to the class, 4-hour class as an appraiser, and then took this, he's got himself covered. And so there is that, and so vote with that action to request an appraiser, and potentially you have to have somebody, and you're familiar with this with if you were commercial building, you have to have a qualified certification that the energy savings were attained in your commercial facility so that you can get the tax break. So it's not, it's out there. These are my research houses. You're going to see, you saw 2 of them. There's a third one. But these are, they're called the TVA Campbell Creek research houses. They are still going. They're up West Knoxville and Farragut. There's a builder house and there's a retrofit house. And what you saw with all the goodies on it was my near zero energy house. We've got robots inside running everything. So they're behaving exactly like a family of 4, exactly like we're programmed in our software packages to do the asset rating on these houses. So you saw the HERS, it's 101. The HES, I trouble a little bit by showing you that these multiple scales are out there. But with HERS, you're golfing. The lower, the better. With HES, you're bowling. The more, the better. So this is a scale from 0 to 10. This is a scale from 0 to, you saw it, as high as you want it to go. The retrofit house, and these are both identical houses, to the square inch of volume. Now, the features are different. HERS here, 68. This HES was about a 4% improvement. And this is something that is really insightful to me and very, very important. Okay, we all know what's happening to our incentive programs right now. Wind is very likely to go away. What's going to happen to solar? We need a level playing field on the energy front. But it was the great white hope that when the stimulus money ran out, and by the way, tons of money got put into this around the country, we did not get our fair share here in TVA, in my mind, because TVA was there taking care of us. But what I had learned was that there's a formula that motivates and informs TVA's residential efficiency program that says for every kilowatt hour that gets saved, it's a value of 4.5%. So with 12 years of the kind of savings that we got from the $10,000 of efficiency improvements from this house to this house, that generated almost $4,000. And so what I had hoped to do was to say, look, and California's mandated this, that if you, utility, invest in efficiency, you will not have to do things like add $1 billion worth of coal emission cleanup on your Gallatin fossil plant, or you may not have to worry about Watts bar getting online, earlier than kind of wants to happen, but you can actually take that same investment and capitalize it, not amortize it within your funding. But what happens with efficiency is it just gets costed that year, which is another thing I'm going to talk about. But nevertheless, to really max what we need to get in our houses, there is some incentive on the other side of that, your Etowah meter, if we lived in a perfect world with the incentives right, that could help you buy down. So I had a project, and it got set up with TVA in Kentucky, kind of Siberia, if you will. I had it all worked out with KUB here in Knoxville. They were very excited about it, but got sent up into Kentucky, and we performed with 100 houses. The TVA evaluators went in and gave HES ratings. And then out of DOE's research budget, if you made an improvement like that, you would get $4,000. Now, it wasn't coming from TVA. It's coming from, in essence, DOE's research budget. But we were trying to see if that would really juice up the investment that people made. $4,000 isn't going to be everything. You're still going to have to borrow some money to get 40% savings, which we got here, and that's what that's representing. So the house, as you already saw, with the solar, that was a HERS of 34. Important point. I've been to like Vancouver, one of their presentations, and in the hallway I realized the suppliers and the homeowners, the demanders of this, they knew what the market was. If there was a 70, they knew how much it cost and how to get to a 69. There was just an understanding that here's the most economical way through once this was set up. What I was planning on doing was, re-bringing this up and then, showing you what 34 meant compared, or 68 compared to 101. But I'm not gonna do that. We have to 9:15. Okay. And that's that. Again, you'll have this to show how to go do this yourself. This is a dashboard. Dashboards are so cool. They tell you so much in such a short time. We ought to have dashboards on our house. Everybody ought to have on a refrigerator a dashboard on how the house is doing, just like the Prius has. And by the way, at the end of the day, we've arranged to have a Prius in the parking lot and a Nissan Leaf that will be following the talk on fuel of the future. But the big thing here is these ratings. They're not accurate. Well, let me tell you, right here in Tennessee, we built 3 houses side by side, put 50 sensors on them, roboted the operations, they automatically open the refrigerator door and close all exactly the same time. All this nonsense. But to prove a point, that is that HERS rating does a darn good job. The energy savings here, you can't read it, but I can, for the builder house was 100%. For the retrofit house, $10,000 investment in retrofit, and that was mostly foam in the attic and not insulation on the attic floor, was 67. Remember, the HERS there was 68, and the energy savings on the one with the solar stuff on the roof was 35. So, with taking the noise of the occupants out, that HERS rating kicks butt. It does a good job. Very important. Okay. This report, if you can stand it, but it is in your disk. It represents what I just told you. It has blow by blow every cent that went into the efficiency, every cent that went into the whole house. It is as well documented 3 houses as exists in the planet. Now you own it. You own that first year data on this, and so that's what this is. You don't even have to go there. It's yours, in your pocket. This was a fun little show, and I'm going to jump through this real quick. But the DOE wanted to make a public statement using ABC's Extreme Home Makeover. And they called me, and they said, Jeff, you're perfect for this. And so in no time, I had to go in and get a lot of stuff entirely for free, donated, so that they could put the show on. And they had 3 secretaries, Department of Secretaries. Secretary Chu from DOE, Secretary of Labor Solis, and this is Duncan. And this is Jeff Christian behind a solar collector, way behind the scene. I was intentional to make this guy look good. It was DOE that was paying me, and we wanted to make, and attempted to, on 2 houses that in a week got built in Washington, D.C. One was actually a big Victorian house that was actually a school, and the other house I'm going to show you real quickly. And this is when Chu, and he's been chewed up pretty badly of late, but he's a major player on energy in this country, a bright guy, and I had the pleasure of just hanging while they did take 1, take 2, and I got an insight as to how he was going to drive his department. And he was the one, he really emphasized that what we're trying to do here at Cleveland State with the archiving of this messaging felt was the most important question of the day. It wasn't inventing a new fuel cell, it was let's truly figure out how to get the real economics in front of homeowners to make the investment in their own homes. And that was, I've been at this for 40 years, and when you get those little mantras as to when somebody just walks in, everybody's listening, that's, kind of lives off that. And that's what I heard personally from that guy. And it helped me to no end. So we wanted to make a real simple statement, and I want to make it to whoever should view these things. The U.S. can save more energy, better educate our children, and produce a more skilled green labor force, what we're trying to do here at Cleveland State, by getting this message out of these high-performance houses, and how, if you will, kind of climate drives this. I got a weather station stacked up on one of these houses so the kids can actually get in, just like we have here on campus, see the weather and then see what that means as far as efficiency and how that connects. Very, very simple, but extremely important. And this is the how, and throughout the day you're going to see bits and pieces of this. I started with one small little habitat house. Then went to that builder spec house, if you will. Then went to about a $500,000 house, which, by the way, is available for sale now after 2 years of research at Oak Ridge. Cool house. And then this here. More or less using the same formula. And that is, I'm going to show you, I have a bias as far as lichen geothermal, heat pump water heater, not a solar water heater. Do you have solar water heater on yours?
No.
Okay, not solar. I'm a techie guy, but even of recent, I still, pumps break, this stuff, it's not as clean as PV. PV, man, you plug that in, it's just stand away and enjoy and brag and feel proud. Triple pane windows, SIPs, structural insulated panels, OSB, foam, OSB, a little bit more expensive up front. But the quality assurance of getting the house built airtight is easier with this route. And 4 kW of solar. I got a story upon story. This house was done in a week. It was all about the family, real cool family, but the technology that went into this was just, and not a lot of people knew this. I more or less took what I learned on a little habitat house and carried it right in and took all my buddies and said, hey, can you help me out one more time? And we did this very, very nice show. And that was a 27. The big thing on that retrofit house, about $4,000 of the $10,000 was, in essence, insulating the attic, not the floor. This is data to show that when I did that attic at max was only 7 degrees warmer than my thermostat setting on that top floor. Attention, attention, very important. If you were to go, and the seminar that we did last Thursday here, if you were to go get your attic foamed, I'm going to tell you, and I didn't know this until I did the numbers and lived with this, you've got to remove that insulation in the floor. So just so you hear this. It's going to be, why? It's going to be humid. A very good chance of high humidity. And this is, I'm assuming your ducts are already up there. Now, one thing you can do is supply and return up there, but you know what? I just don't want to do that, particularly at first when there's odors. And if I've got fiberglass, I don't want to be introducing fibers or cellular or anything into my house. So just so you're aware of that.
I have a question.
Yes?
I was here last week and I saw all the foaming and all that going on. But, and this is totally a different direction, but what happens to termite situations or rodent situations in those type of foam? Does that not lead to problems?
Not necessarily. In these attics, these are pretty, well, first of all, there's no nutrient value. You got to hear that one. Can they bore in there and harbor any, not necessarily just termites, but carpenter bees, and then they're going to make sounds? The answer, and I've seen in SIPs where insects have gotten in, but they generally are gonna, they're gonna broadcast. I mean, I've found little piles of salt like you will find. Oh yeah, there's a hole. You know, yeah, inject something and problem gone. It happens in existing houses as well. But I will argue that you got to be careful. And particularly if I'm doing this in new construction, I want to make darn sure I've got a mechanical barrier on my masonry before I put my top plate down that discourages subterranean termites to get up in. And I've got a whole, and the discussion on foundations that occurs around noon today, I've got the details for addressing that. But I will argue that that is not a showstopper. I came from very much doubt, and what we're talking about right now is just this foam in the attic. And you were here, and I brought up to the foam salesman, Scott, I believe it was, Mr. Wright. I brought up to him what I heard all the time, and that is what happens when that flashing fails and that OSB turns to mush. And he gave an answer. Well, when you get around to changing your shingles, you're going to see that area. If it's a slow leak, it's soft, and you've got to remove that and replace a couple of sheets of OSB or plywood. And if it's a real bad leak, it will find its way to the soffit. But anyway, this is one that's been tossed out. Oh yeah, bad. 25 years ago, and it just hasn't stood up. It just hasn't. Okay, I'm going to run a little bit. These are just pictures of the robots in these houses. Robotic refrigerator, washing, and actually we have washed a set of towels now for 3 years, and we found where the old socks go. They turn to lint, and that's the answer to the mystery of why you have so many single socks. I got all these bad things. Classic example. What we keep doing is that upstairs unit up in the attic. This is one of the retrofit houses. I'm just going to show you one example of it. It happens to be again, we did the insulating in this attic, and whereas new houses get down to 2 and even below 1 and even below 1/10 at 50 Pascal, having worked as hard as I possibly could on this house, 4.31. But this house did get a LEED Platinum, and it sold in less than a month because of the green features that it had on it. There's a hot button for a video on this where when an architect when Kim Trent, the head of who really was the Knox Heritage that did this house, when both of them spoke, they both, okay, you're under a time constraint. You can't talk forever about all of these wonderful things. They both chose, one said it's a LEED certified, one said it's a LEED gold, and it turns out when it fell out, when they actually got their final, it's a LEED platinum. That is as good as you can get. But the point I want to make right here is that measurement is so critical to kind of being able to communicate to all of our market, to our neighbors, to ourselves, you know, where our house stands. I've been at this so long, and I'd love people to understand BTUs and kilowatt hours. And by the way, in my solar seminar this afternoon, I will do that. I do that with my 3rd and 4th year architect students that still don't know in many cases. You know, so I'm just a big, huge proponent to make all this stuff go, you know, make it a one-man band. And dude, you're there. I mean, you know, get that label so everybody that, you know, they might nod their head like they understand, but, you know, serve it up that, and that'll instantly mean a lot to everybody. I've created a little battle here between, and this has been very, very nice. One of the things that when you get these houses really, really small, people believe that these mini splits are really the way to go. And I've spent a lot of time looking at the traditional, this is Carrier's Green Speed, incredible SEER on the thing, like 20.5. I'm still a proponent of vapor compression, ducted, so that we got good temperature. Don't forget that comfort. And that comfort, I believe, is so American. It's apple pie, ba 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 ba. You're not going to put one of these units in and gather around the fireplace or the air conditioner. It just ain't going to happen in today's world. That's not what we did here. We attempted to put one of these indoor units in every single room, and it gets to be a problem. I'm going to stop right here. When it comes to these ratings, right now, I wish somebody could say, Jeff, you're wrong. But TVA's got the only show in town. If this is going to be institutionalized, it's got to be TVA. Now, what I want to say is, by golly, you guys grab that banner and you do it yourself and make a story like I've tried to make, and just will change the world one house at a time. But
Are you saying Tennessee or federally?
I am unfortunately just saying Tennessee. The rest of the world is going on, man. They are flying. And here in Tennessee, when I asked TVA, and I knew they've been working on this for a long time, it's still under internal discussion. We are working on something, we're going to call it the Energy Scorecard. Fine, fine. Must make sure all the TVA distributors are on board. We don't want to have any public discussion. We want to make sure all our customers, who aren't you and me, are the 159 distributors, are all on board. It's just not the right time to have that discussion that I'm trying to get, that I think is necessary, that's healthy, that happens all around us. So I think, before I go over the edge on that one, that's it for this. I will tell you there's a lot more behind that still is left in there, but once again, you've got it, and enjoy on the floppy. So what we're going to do is transide to the second talk, which is really focused on the houses themselves. So I just need a second to change this over.